اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور، به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome once again to the Ask Imam show. We are preparing for Ramadan. We are going to be we will be at some point, inshallah, in the month of Ramadan. And how do we prepare for it? We've been talking about it in our previous shows. How to attain better khushu in salah. We've talked about that. How to keep away from certain addictions. All of those little bits. We've tried to cover that, inshallah. This is the Ask Imam show. So please, do. If you have any questions or comments, do post it down. And when we look at the comments, inshallah, if we see any questions that are commonly coming up, inshallah, we'll try and answer them. We have Imam Muaz Vahora here with us, who will be answering most of the questions. And we are going to be focusing on things that tend to break the fast. Those are kind of some of the things that we'll be looking at to try and cover in this podcast, inshallah. So, Imam Muaz, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
So, we talk about, things that will break fast. But generally, what are actually the principles, around it, the common factors, and then inshallah we can move into certain specific ones.
Brilliant. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So, obviously this is something that the scholars have discussed. And the scholars mentioned that for a fast to be broken, there are a number of principles that need to be met. So firstly, that the fast, and this is something, inshallah, when we discuss the practical examples, we'll see this played out. Okay? And again, for our listeners, this little question here, even if you don't understand it, it's not too important because we're just talking about scholarly principles here. Right? What's more important is the upcoming questions where we discuss the different cases.
Okay.
But it's good to know, right? So firstly, in terms of principles, for a fast to break, number one, the first condition is that the substance, you must be consuming a discernible substance. That's the first condition. So for example, when it comes to something like inhaling Vicks, so a person inhales Vicks, but there's no actual discernible substance that's entering. So because that condition is not met, inhaling Vicks would not break your fast. That's the first condition. The second condition is that the substance, it enters from an entry point that is connected to the digestive system.
Okay.
So that means it enters, for example, through the mouth, through the nose, through the anal passage, right? These kind of things. And that is why when a substance enters through the ear, right, and somebody's ear is not damaged, it's not perforated, then you would not consider the fast being broken. Why? Because this is not a passage which then leads to the digestive system.
Yeah.
So one is, it has to be a discernible substance. It has to enter from an entry point that is connected to the digestive system. Thirdly, it then needs to reach the digestive system, which essentially includes the throat, the stomach, and the intestines.
Okay.
Right? From a Shari'i perspective.
Yeah.
Not talking about, from a biology perspective. From a Shari'i perspective, this is the throat, the stomach, and the intestines. It has to reach one of those. That's the third condition. The fourth, it has to gain an independent stay there. So the scholars give an example, like imagine somebody put a raisin on a string and put it down their mouth somehow, right? And then they pulled it back out. Well, that raisin on a string, because it's not gained an independent stay in the stomach, that wouldn't break the fast. So these are the conditions that are required. And then fifth, of course, is not in terms of the fast itself, but especially to do with if kafara is required, is whether you have a valid excuse. So it's very important to understand that when it comes to Ramadan fasting, Ramadan fasts are very, very important.
Yeah.
Yes. And so the Ramadan fast is the only type of fast where in certain circumstances, if you break that fast in certain ways, beyond having to do qada, you will actually have to do kafara as well. Kafara is to expiate for that fast.
Yeah.
And the expiation is 60 days of consecutive fasting. It's not a small thing. 60 days, 2 whole months of consecutive fasting. That is not a joke, right?
So if you break one of the days, you have to restart again.
That's it, exactly. And it's consecutive. You've got to restart again.
Yeah.
Okay? Again, this is for only very, very few things that a person may do where the kafara will be required.
Okay.
Right? And of course, the point is that this is to show us that, look, do not break the Ramadan fast without a valid reason.
Yeah.
It's a very grave thing to do. Okay? But for most ways that a person would break their Ramadan fast, there will be no expiation. It'll just be, you'll need to make up that fast. You'll need to make up that fast. Okay?
Yeah.
So these are the broad principles. Inshallah, let's go into some practical examples now, and then we can discuss, each of those and whether they would break the fast and require kafara or not, and even why perhaps as well.
Okay. So, yes, please don't try tying the string to a raisin and chucking it all the way in. Yeah, let's not try that. Let's not test it. Yeah, but yeah, shukran. So, obviously, let's start with the most simplest and the most obvious: intentionally eating or drinking.
Yes. So obviously, if you know you're fasting,
Yeah,
and now you've intentionally, not by mistake, you've like, you know what, I've had enough of this, and you just decide to eat or drink.
Yeah.
Of course, that's going to break your fast. But also, this is one of the few actions that, along with breaking your fast, it will require you to pay or to do the kafara. When I say pay, that's because the first is you fast 60 consecutive days. Right. But then the second option after that, if you can't fast the days, is to feed the poor. Right? 2 meals a day for 60 days. So that is only for those who cannot do the fasting though. Right? So you have to fast. That's the first option. Yeah. Anyhow, so intentionally eating or drinking will result in the fast breaking, and will also result in you having to do kafara.
Okay. So that is the 60 days back to back.
Yeah.
Okay. Shukran. What about eating or drinking forgetfully?
Yeah, so because it was forgetful, as we've mentioned in the past, it is from the mercy of Allah that when we do something forgetfully, then because we forgot that we were fasting, you didn't remember, then it will not break your fast. And of course, therefore, there will be no kafara as well.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
and again, this refers to the fact that you forgot.
Yeah.
Right? Not that you made a mistake.
Yeah. So talking about that, obviously we kind of gave a snippet in terms of, the difference between forgetting and mistake. But inshallah, for this, episode, I think it'll be a good reminder. However, what about eating or drinking mistakenly?
Yeah, so just to clarify, what's the difference between forgetting and mistaking? Forgetting is you didn't even realize you were fasting.
Yeah.
So you forgot that it's Ramadan or whatever else, and you ate or you drank. Mistake is you know you are fasting, but mistakenly you ate something, or more likely you drank something. Like you're doing wudu and you were gargling the water and you drank some, right? Or for example, mistakenly you ate thinking it's time for iftar, whereas it wasn't time for iftar and you were still supposed to have been fasting. These are all mistakes.
Yeah.
So again, in this circumstance, the fast will break in the mistake, not in the forgetfulness. In the mistake, the fast will break, but there will be no kafara because it wasn't an intentional thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't like you're purposely doing it. It was a mistake, and so therefore there is no kafara.
Okay. So obviously to our listeners and viewers, you're answering some of the very common questions, but also some of the questions that people have kind of posted online, asking us these sort of questions. So these are some of the questions we're asking, which will probably make sense in terms of the next question that I'm going to ask you. You've had your suhoor, and you are now, your fast has started, you're in your fast, and then next thing you realize you've got some of the early morning chicken is left in your tooth, and you dig it out and you swallow that. Does that break your fast?
Yeah, so with that, it depends on how much it is. The scholars, they mention if it's more than the size of a chickpea,
Yeah.
which is like, a small amount basically, more than that size, then yeah, it will break your fast.
Okay.
But if it's an insignificant amount, then it won't. And obviously, once you've swallowed it, you're not going to pull it out and measure, right? But you just kind of roughly tell. If it's a very small amount, then nothing. But if it is something more than that, then yes, your fast will break, although there wouldn't be kafara.
Okay. What about swallowing non-edible items? Yeah. So, we do have the tendency of chewing on the pen, and bits sometimes go into their mouth, those kind of little habits that people tend to have.
Yeah. Yeah. So because obviously, again, if you remember, let's go back to the principles, right? So if you swallow something that's non-edible, let's say like a piece of paper, I don't know, right? Now, that is a discernible substance. It's entering from the mouth. it's reaching the digestive system, is having an independent stay there. So all the conditions that are required are found.
Have been met,
so
yeah.
therefore the fast will break. But again, this is not something that actually, because it's non-edible, it's not something that nourishes the body, that strengthens the body. And so for that reason, there will be no kafara. Right? So kafara often is in those circumstances where you have consumed something that actually nourishes the body. Right? So what the scholars mention is that kafara will be required when the form of breaking the fast and the meaning of breaking the fast is found. Meaning what? The form is you've done something that in terms of its form, it breaks the fast. Like for example, eating that piece of paper. Yeah. But in terms of its meaning, when you eat something, the purpose of that thing is to nourish you. It's to nourish you. But if you eat paper, that paper is not nourishing you. Right? So therefore there will be no kafara required.
Okay.
Whereas when you've intentionally eaten now,
Yeah.
proper food, you've broken the fast and it's nourished you as well.
Yeah.
Hence kafara in that circumstance.
Okay. So what about, eating or drinking after mistakenly assuming that the fast was broken?
Yeah, so sometimes there's a lack of knowledge and we don't realize and we think we've done something and because of that the fast is broken. Yeah. But genuinely the fast was not broken. But you thought, oh, you know what, I did this. Like sometimes people think that brushing my teeth breaks your fast. So you brush your teeth, then you thought, oh my God, my fast is broken. And now you thought, you know what, since it's broken, might as well have breakfast. And so you have breakfast. Now, obviously, brushing your teeth, as we'll discuss, can be disliked because of the risk of swallowing the toothpaste. But it doesn't break your fast unless you actually swallow something. So now when you actually had the breakfast, you were actually fasting. And your fast was fine. But now by having the breakfast, thinking you're not fasting, you end up breaking the fast. Right? So your fast will now break, but you will not have any kafara in that circumstance. Yeah? And the reason is because there wasn't any intention there. It was you genuinely thought you were not fasting, and then you ate.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't that I know I'm fasting, but I'm still gonna eat.
Yeah. Okay. What about, taking medicine intentionally, without a valid reason?
Yeah, so again, same thing. That you're taking medicine, you know what you're doing, right? And there's no real reason to do that, right? And again, we're not talking about minor things like you've got a small headache, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like genuine reason to take the medicine. You haven't got any proper reason, it will break the fast because it meets all the conditions, as we've said. Right?
Yeah.
Something of substance, discernible substance, entering through the mouth, nose, etc., right? Reaching the digestive system, and staying there. So therefore, that will break the fast. And again, this nourishes your body, or it makes your body better. It ameliorates your body. It strengthens your body. And so therefore, again, that will require then kafara as well.
Okay. What about eye drops, wearing contact lenses?
Okay, good. So what you have to understand, again, and this is very good because we can see the principles being applied here, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to eye drops, when you think of your eye, when you put drops into your eye, those eye drops will not reach the throat or will not reach the stomach or the intestines. So therefore, that condition of it reaching one of these places
is not met.
And so therefore, eye drops will not actually break your fast. And likewise, contact lenses, things like this, would not break your fast.
Okay. And we talked about the eardrum, perforated or non-perforated. So, like you said, the condition of it not being met.
Exactly. So, because when it's perforated, that means it can get through and it can reach the digestive system.
Yeah.
And so, therefore, in that circumstance, the fast would break.
Okay.
But for most of us whose ears are sound, alhamdulillah, not perforated, then it won't actually go through.
Okay.
And this is quite incredible when you think of this because, when you look at the books of fiqh, you would see how the scholars, classically, they would think based on the medical knowledge of their time. They used to think that substances could actually go from the ear into the digestive system. So based on that, they gave the ruling the fast would break. But now, because of our updated knowledge, we know that's not the case.
Yeah.
And so the ruling has now changed. And we say, well, no, we know the principles. So the principles are the same. But we can now apply those principles better because of our updated knowledge. Right? And of course, these are principles that these great jurists, gave us.
Yeah. So, we talked about, eye drops, ear drops. What about nose drops? Because obviously there is the connection.
Yes. So now with the nose, obviously we know that it can reach the throat. oftentimes, try like a nose spray.
Yeah.
When you do a nose spray, if you do the spray properly, it should just stay in the nose. But most of the time, what happens, you actually spray it and it actually goes back and you can taste it in the throat.
Yeah.
That tells you that it's gone through. So in that case as well, the fast would then break.
Okay. And is there any kafara on that?
There's no kafara required.
Okay.
In that circumstance as well, because again, you're taking it as a form of medicine.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why there is no kafara required there.
So what about inhalers?
Yeah. So now again, the same thing with the inhaler is that when you inhale, like people who use asthma inhalers, the droplets ultimately do get through to the throat as well, right? They do, and that's why people who use asthma inhalers, they'll tell you that sometimes it makes the throat sore. What does that mean? That tells you that it gets through to the throat.
Yeah.
So again, the same as the nose drops. Therefore, in that circumstance, inhaler does break your fast. But again, because there's a medical reason you're taking it,
Yeah.
it will not require kafara.
What about, if you have to take an injection or, like a vaccine,
Yep.
those kind of things, or maybe, an IV drop?
Yeah. So again, all these kind of things,
Yeah.
again, you have to understand that these would not break the fast. And the reason is because, going back to the conditions, it does not enter through a place which then ultimately reaches the digestive system.
Yeah.
So it's not going through the nose, the mouth, in these kind of places. And rather, it's often going directly, into the bloodstream, for example.
Yeah.
Right? So for that reason, it will not break the fast.
So this is a very common question that people tend to have. Is vomiting, or throwing up unintentionally, without intentionally swallowing it.
Yeah. So when you throw up, if it's unintentionally, then it doesn't matter how much you vomit, because it was unintentional. It will not break your fast. And remember, in this case, the vomit is coming out, and as long as you're not then, when it's coming out, then intentionally taking it back in, as long as you haven't done that, then inshallah your fast is completely fine.
Okay. Vomiting intentionally.
Yeah. So
Mouthful
now,
of-
So now, in this circumstance, if you've purposely vomited, and it's a mouthful or more, what does a mouthful mean? Mouthful means that it's such an amount that when you vomit, you're not able to hold it in your mouth. It's such an amount, such a quantity,
It has to be
that'll come out with force,
Mm.
and you won't be able to hold it in, right? Then in that kind of circumstance now, your fast would break.
Okay.
So where you vomited intentionally, and it's such an amount, you can't hold it in, like a mouthful or more, then your fast would break, otherwise not.
What about oxygen therapy? Even if it's 100% concentrated oxygen, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. So oxygen therapy, this will not break your fast, because obviously we breathe in oxygen all the time. Otherwise, breathing would break the fast, right? Which it does not, alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
So oxygen therapy would not break your fast.
Okay. Good. It's good to make that clear. Those people who think I'm fasting, I have to stop breathing. Okay. Rectal suppositories.
Yep.
What about things like that, or
Yeah.
vaginal suppositories?
Yeah. So rectal suppositories,
Yeah.
they will break the fast.
Yeah.
And the reason they will break the fast is because they are entering through the anus, essentially, and then they are reaching the rectum. And the rectum is considered a part of the digestive system, the large intestine, right? So for that reason, the conditions are met, and so therefore the fast would break in that case.
Okay.
Having said that, again, there will be no kafara, because, again, it's done for a valid reason. Yeah.
Okay. And what about, like those Nicorette pouches or patches?
Yeah. So again, these things, if you think about the conditions, it's not going through, it's on your skin directly into the bloodstream, so it wouldn't break your fast.
Okay. Catheter?
Yeah, so in terms of a urinary catheter, yes, in that case, that would break your fast, but it won't require kafara.
Okay. I think we have another one here, that's gastronomy.
Yeah, so again, same thing, it would break your fast,
Yeah.
but it won't require kafara.
Okay. If you're having an endoscope, again.
Yeah, so endoscopy, because with endoscopy, what happens is they use a lubricant. So this is interesting, because that principle we mentioned, where you put a raisin on a string.
Yeah.
Yeah, this principle applies here. How? If you just did an endoscopy, yeah, but there was no lubricant, the endoscope, when it goes down, it doesn't have a permanent state. It's not permanent. It's not staying there independently.
Yeah.
So if you were to theoretically do it without lubrication, which is not possible, yeah, but if you were to do that, it wouldn't actually break your fast.
Okay.
And that's just the example of the. So sometimes the scholars mention something, and you're thinking,
Why use that example?
like why?
Yeah.
Because remember, they're writing hundreds and sometimes thousands of years ago,
Yeah.
and they give an example, and you're thinking, why they even mention this? Like, who's gonna ever do this? It's just so theoretical.
Yeah.
And then subhanallah, hundreds of years down the line, there's a real use of that,
Yeah.
right? So they're thinking, a raisin on a string.
Yeah.
Which you just laugh like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But now people do endoscopies, and if there was no lubricant, technically it wouldn't have a permanent stay,
Yeah.
an independent stay, and so therefore, right, the fast wouldn't break. But because they normally put lubricant on it, because of that, now the fast would break.
Okay. So Imam Moaz, obviously, we're answering quite a number of those common questions. What about swallowing blood from your gums?
Yeah. So in terms of swallowing blood, if the blood is, because obviously it'll be mixed with saliva, if the blood is more than the saliva, then in that case it will actually break your fast as well. Although again, it will not require kafara. So if the blood is more than saliva, it will break your fast. Otherwise, not.
What about collecting saliva in your mouth, making a massive gulp and then swallowing that?
Yeah. So obviously, in terms of gathering saliva up and then swallowing it, it won't break your fast, technically speaking.
Yeah.
But it will be makruh because that goes against the spirit of the fast.
Yeah. Okay. Well, forced consumption of food or drink forcefully, placed into your mouth.
So if someone forces you to eat, at gunpoint, like you better eat, yeah, or I'm gonna shoot you. I hope not. I don't know what kind of circumstance that would happen in.
Yeah.
But in that case, obviously, you then eat. Your fast would break, even though you've been forced. Your fast would break, but there'll be no sin, inshallah, and of course there will be no kafara.
Okay. So obviously, on the more, obviously the more, I would say probably more serious sort of ways of looking at it, sexual intercourse intentionally.
Yes. So if a person engages in intimacy with their spouse and actually has intercourse with their spouse, then and they knew, look, I'm fasting. It's just like eating and drinking. You're fasting.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
Because intimacy while fasting is prohibited. So therefore, actual intercourse, then that will break your fast, and you will require kafara as well, expiation of that fast.
Okay. What about masturbation, ejaculation or physical stimulation?
Yeah. So if a person masturbates, for example, then in this case, your fast would still break, but the only thing is that you will not be required to do kafara. So there's no kafara, but masturbating and then ejaculating, therefore, right, will break your fast. If a person masturbates but does not actually ejaculate, that would not break your fast. But ejaculating now breaks your fast.
Okay. And what if you have a wet dream?
If you have a wet dream, that was out of your control. So therefore, that would not break your fast at all.
Touching one's spouse, kissing, without...
Yeah. So obviously, I mean, while you're fasting, it's best to avoid kissing your spouse and things like this, because easily it can lead on to other things. But if you did kiss your spouse, say on the cheek or even on the lips, as long as you didn't take in their saliva, technically your fast is fine.
Okay.
If you swallowed their saliva, that's where your fast would now be broken. Yeah.
Okay. So what about things like, we have, snuff that they use, or, tobacco.
Yeah. Yeah. So think in terms of snuff, tobacco, things like this.
Yeah.
Then obviously in terms of if you're putting it in the mouth, or you're sniffing it, or you're smoking it, all of this would actually break the fast. And because it's a form of enjoyment you're getting from it as well, and you're ameliorating the body as well, therefore kafara would be required as well.
Okay. So does that also include smoking
Yep.
and vaping and all of that?
Yeah, because remember, you're taking in that substance, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. And then, breaking a non-Ramadan fast, so like a voluntary sort of fast.
Yeah, so if obviously when you break a non-Ramadan fast, the fast breaks because you've broken it, right? You've eaten something or whatever you've done.
Yeah.
But there's no kafara. The point being, in that case, there's no kafara. Kafara is only for fasts that you've broken in Ramadan in the specific ways which demand kafara.
And then, obviously, the common one is, our sisters, whose periods start.
Yes. So obviously, when a woman is on her period, menstrual cycle basically begins, then she cannot fast. So her fast immediately breaks. But of course, there will be no kafara.
I think we also have, brushing the teeth with toothpaste.
Yeah, so in terms of brushing the teeth, likewise, in terms of, like you said, gathering saliva, all of these things would be makruh. They would not break the fast. So there's a few things like that are makruh. So, for example, you're tasting food, but you're not swallowing that food, yeah? You're not swallowing it, but you're just tasting it. And there was no reason. Or you're chewing something, like you're chewing some plastic or some cloth. Again, this would be makruh, but because nothing is going down, it wouldn't break your fast.
Okay.
Likewise, if you're doing cupping, right? Cupping will not break your fast. But if it makes you weak, it will be makruh. Because obviously you need strength to fast.
Shukran. We will be going for a short break, inshallah, and then obviously once we are back, we will try and attack some of the other questions in relation to what sort of breaks your fast, if there's any penalty or not. So please do stay tuned, and inshallah we'll see you on the second part. Assalamu alaikum.
اطلب العلم أخي فهو درب به نور به ترقى به تحيا عالما حرا فخور.
Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Once again, we are now on the second part of the show. We have been discussing, we have discussed actually previously what breaks fasts. This time it is more about your fast is still valid. However, how do you maintain that spirituality through your fast? Or while you're fasting, there are certain dislikes. Those are the things, inshallah, we'll continue on with. So, Imam, once again, assalamu alaikum. The question is, what are some errors people make in Ramadan? That ruin the spirit of fasting. And even if the fast is valid.
So it's a very good question, because we've discussed those things which break the fast.
Yeah.
But sometimes there are many things that we do that don't actually break the fast, but they will take away from the spirit of the fast. And this is something I often emphasize, that for many of us, fasting and so many of our other religious practices have just become forms, rituals, without the spirit, without the soul. And so what are some of these common errors that people make? One thing that a lot of people do is excessive spending. So Ramadan is supposed to be a time in which we avoid being wasteful, right? It's a time in which we learn to be prepared to face harder times, right? By distinguishing those things that are luxuries from those things that are needs. And unfortunately, many people, they actually go above and beyond the limits in spending during Ramadan. So, for example, if you think about, let's say, the types of foods that we prepare for the iftar.
It's true.
Right?
It's like a feast.
Exactly. Whereas the purpose of Ramadan is supposed to be what? Control, discipline, patience, abstinence. These are supposed to be the goals of Ramadan.
Yeah.
But instead, what do? Right? We make more varieties than we do outside of Ramadan.
Sure.
And so the fasting, the struggle, it's missing essentially.
Yeah.
Right? The sacrifice, that's gone missing. So excessive spending, and that refers to, of course, in terms of the types of foods that we prepare, going out, spending hours and hours in the day, especially for our sisters, buying ingredients for biryanis and samosas and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Right? And then what ends up happening is people end up eating a lot for iftar, and then obviously when you're quite full, you become sleepy. And so instead of praying 20 rakats tarawih, you pray 8 rakats, and then you try to find a fiqhi justification that, actually 8 rakats is the sunnah, rather than admit that, look, I'm just feeling tired because I ate too much, right? So I think we need to cut back on this and bring back the spirit of Ramadan, bring back the spirit of fasting, which is when we break our fast, eat, but eat moderately, and eat savoring each bite, thanking Allah. Oh Allah, I spent the day fasting for your sake, and now I'm breaking the food with the fast breaking the fast with the food that you have given.
Provided,
and
absolutely.
this is a blessing that so many people today living right now around the world don't have.
Yeah.
There are many people who are fasting but don't have anything to break their fast with.
Absolutely.
And they don't know.
Yeah.
We know at iftar time I will break my fast with the food.
Yeah.
That's prepared. There's so many people, they don't have and they don't know when their fast is going to break.
Very true.
Right? Likewise, another of the errors.
before you go into the other errors, I think it's a very important point you raised about, not, for instance, just food in general. Because this is reality. When we are fasting, you'll find our mothers, our wives, our family members have exorbitant feasts laid out. Yes, provide good food for your family. It's a form of sadaqah, that, people do, that a man does towards his family. This is a good thing. However, also think about your neighbors. Do they have food? So if you have so much, and you have the ability to afford so much, think about your neighbors. If you're making your 10 samosas, you have the ability to make 50 samosas, fine. Make the 50 samosas, distribute them in your neighborhood. Give it to your neighbors. Spread the spirit of Ramadan with them also. And you don't know whose heart, inshallah, you'll also touch.
Definitely. So that's one thing, right? Excessive spending and preparing, overly preparing when it comes to breaking the fast.
Yeah.
Another thing that some people do is they stay awake during the night and then they sleep during the day.
Okay.
Right? Because they're thinking, I'm fasting, and the best way to kind of stave off the hunger and the tiredness is just to sleep the day. And so they spend the night awake, eating and feasting, and then they spend the night awake, and they spend the day sleeping.
Sleeping, yeah.
So all they've really done is just flip their timetable over.
Yeah.
But again, that's defeating the purpose of Ramadan, right? So the day is for effort, the day is for work, the day is for ibadah, right? So try to be balanced. There's nothing wrong with, after you come back from work, spending an hour or two sleeping. Or if you're at home, sleeping, doing qaylula in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be that, from straight after you start the fast, all the way till dhuhr you sleep, you wake up for dhuhr, pray your dhuhr, or perhaps even miss your dhuhr, and then sleep through until asr and maghrib as well.
Yeah.
Right? That defeats the entire purpose of fasting.
Absolutely.
So I think this balance, right, of ibadah and rest, doing this in a balanced way, that's very important as well.
Sure.
The third error that a lot of people make is spending too much time socializing, right? So Ramadan is the time where we're supposed to connect with Allah. Connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we invite people for iftar, for example.
Yeah.
And then we get chit-chatting away. And before we know it, we spend so much time just talking.
Yeah.
Vain talk often, futile talk, gossip, sometimes even haram, and we're earning sin, right? So there is nothing wrong with sharing a meal. It's a very good thing to do. Invite people to break the fast with you, right? Feed a fasting person. These are great good deeds. But don't make the purpose of Ramadan socializing. Remember, the purpose of Ramadan is to isolate yourself as much as you can with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. To remember Him, to do His dhikr, to recite Quran, and then of course to do good deeds, to do da'wah, all these kinds of things. So just be very careful in spending too much time socializing. Right? Another of the mistakes that some people make is that in trying to, in setting a target to recite Quran. Okay, I want to complete 3 Qurans in Ramadan, 5 Qurans in Ramadan. It's a very good thing. Or even 1 Quran in Ramadan. But then sometimes in trying to do that, they're reading the Quran very, very fast. Right? Because they've lost sight of the goal.
Yeah.
For them, the goal has just become, as quick as possible, get through these words.
Yeah, I must complete the 3.
I must complete the 3.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, having a target, having a goal is a good thing. We all need that.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't come at the expense of the quality as well.
Yeah, realistic.
Right?
Realistic,
100%.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be that you're trying to do good, but in the process you're making so many mistakes, grave errors, that are changing the meaning that you're earning sin instead.
Yeah.
Right? So try to set a realistic target, allocate time to do that, and then read at a good enough pace where, yes, you're covering ground quickly, but you're still giving the Quran its right.
Absolutely.
And also then allocating time within Ramadan to actually engage with the message of the Quran.
Yeah.
And not just its letters.
Yeah.
Because its letters is recitation.
Yeah.
But beyond that, engage with the meaning. Take out time for reflection.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have this mentality that this is a waste of time. If I spend time understanding the meaning of the Quran, then that's time lost in which I could have been reading a few extra juz. That's what we think.
Yeah.
But that's the wrong mentality to have. Because ultimately the purpose of the Quran is to understand its meaning. So that's being lost.
Sure.
Right?
So, Imam was on that topic, like you say, it's also good to read the tafsir of the Quran, right?
Definitely.
Is there any book you recommend our listeners, for which tafsir book is good?
Yeah, definitely. So, especially in English,
Yeah.
if you search up the tafsir of Mufti Shafi Usmani,
Okay.
which is called Ma'arif al-Quran. Ma'arif al-Quran, there's a PDF available online
Okay.
of Mufti Shafi Usmani.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good detailed tafsir where he covers, the Quran in a lot of detail. Whichever part you find interesting, relevant, pick it up and have a read.
Okay.
Obviously, just know it's not really a tafsir you're likely to read cover to cover.
Yeah.
Because of the amount of detail.
Okay.
And interesting you mentioned the actual origin of that tafsir was radio shows that Mufti Shafi used to do.
Oh, is it?
So he used to do
Okay.
tafsir of the Quran on
Yeah.
the radio, subhanallah.
Yeah.
And then, obviously afterwards, it was then made into book form.
Okay.
Right, because of the value of what he was
You were
sharing.
saying, yeah.
But what I would suggest is read a translation of the Quran.
Yeah.
And wherever you have questions that, okay, what does this mean really? I'm not understanding this, or I'm finding this interesting. That's now where you open up the tafsir and go
Good
into more
point.
detail.
Absolutely. Good
Right?
point.
Rather than think, I'll read tafsir of the whole juz.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right? Another of the errors that sometimes people make, especially near the end of Ramadan, is during the days of i'tikaf.
Okay.
That they've come to i'tikaf to seclude themselves with Allah,
Yeah.
but they instead seclude themselves with their phones.
Yeah.
Or they're actually not secluding themselves.
Yeah.
And they're interacting with people and spending hours and hours just chit-chatting and just talking about rubbish.
Yeah.
Right? So again, near the end, when you're doing i'tikaf, if you know that, look, my friends are all coming here, either be very strict and tell them, look, we're here to focus on Allah.
Yeah.
We're not going to talk unless necessary.
Yeah.
Right? Or just go to a masjid where nobody knows you.
Yeah.
Right? And just go there.
Yeah.
And just do your i'tikaf there where you're alone and nobody can disturb you.
Absolutely. Good point.
So I go to a masjid whenever I can,
Yeah.
which is up north. And over there they have quite strict rules. And some people don't want to come because they think it's too strict here.
Yeah.
That you can't even have your phone. They take your phone away.
Okay.
So they put your phone in a locker or you don't bring it with you.
Yeah.
And initially some people are like, oh, what's going on? They're taking your phone, it's too strict. But after 10 days, the way you feel mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, honestly, it's amazing.
Another level.
Another level, definitely.
Yeah.
Like even the way you can then engage with the Quran and the way the meanings open up and everything else is just so different.
Yeah.
Right? So these are some common errors that people make. And inshallah, if we try to avoid these, then our Ramadan will not just be the form, but it will have its spirit as well. And I'm sure there may be others that you might be thinking of
Yeah.
that I might have missed. But yeah, these we should try and avoid.
This point of itikaf is so important because you dedicate your 10 days towards spending and secluding yourself, in a masjid. For those that have the ability to take the 10 days off and, stay in the masjid. I volunteer at the masjid and I see regularly, there are brothers who come with the intention of staying in the masjid for the 10 days. They have the right intentions of secluding themselves. They try as best as they can to seclude themselves. But then there are other brothers who, come in, entice the others for conversations, and then, it kind of ruins somebody's ibadah.
Yeah.
Remember, like Imam Muaz says, remember the focus of why you're going to be there. Why are you there? And if you do feel that, somebody is disturbing your focus and your ibadah, there are gentle ways of telling them.
Definitely.
But it is good to say, because remember, it is between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you don't want somebody else, even though he might be a brother of yours, to ruin your connection. So sometimes it's good to remind each other and another brother also that, look, you know what, we're here for this, inshallah, let's make the effort.
And inshallah, what we will try to do is have a dedicated episode for i'tikaf, because obviously there's a lot of issues, both to do with the legal aspect and the spiritual aspect, the spirit of i'tikaf, that we need to address, inshallah. So,
I think that's a good point,
so
because
we keep an eye
also,
out.
that's a good point. I think we should do that, because there are also certain rules that must be followed, right?
100%.
I think there'll be a good point. I think the other question is, let's say somebody's, this is a question that we have had, and it might be a bit of a humorous question. However, the question is, what if somebody spits a lot while fasting? Especially, our brothers who tend to eat the pan and all, they have this habit of, so, yeah. What's your advice on that?
Yeah. So the place this question is coming from is either that maybe somebody eating pan and they have that habit, so maybe that's why they're spitting. But I think also more likely is that some people get these waswasas, these whispers from shaitan.
Yeah.
That, you have something in your mouth. Make sure you spit it out, or otherwise if it goes down, your fast will break.
Yeah.
So it's this fear, this whispering from shaitan. So this is not necessary at all.
Yeah.
If you have saliva in your mouth, for example, and you swallow that saliva just normally, there's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely.
Right? Remember, Allah has made this deen easy for us.
Yeah.
Right? That the deen is easy. Our religious practice is not supposed to be something that gives us stress or anxiety.
Absolutely.
If it is giving you anxiety, then you need to find out, are you really practicing the religion in the way Allah intended?
Yeah.
Because Allah said that يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Allah intends ease for you. He doesn't intend difficulty for you, anxiety for you, stress for you. So there is no need at all to constantly keep spitting. Rather, the more you spit, the more your body's going to have to produce saliva to lubricate your mouth, and the more you will feel dry as well in the mouth. So producing saliva, swallowing saliva is normal, and you just go about your day normally.
Absolutely.
Right? It's not something you should be paying too much attention to.
No, it's how you're created.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? So don't worry about it. These are just waswasa from shaitan.
Okay.
And you shouldn't give it too much importance.
So this next question is quite valid, and it more relies on our brothers and our sisters, who suffer from OCD, and for them, what's the ruling, on constantly, like rinsing your mouth, for instance?
Yeah. So when it comes to constantly rinsing your mouth, again, the question is, why are you rinsing your mouth? Yeah. So if we try to put ourselves in the mind of the questioner here, it seems to me that most likely that the reason they keep rinsing their mouth is because they probably have some kind of OCD or something like that.
Yeah.
And they're worried that maybe there's some food left over in my mouth or something else. And so if I swallow that, my fast will break. So again, the same thing as I mentioned for the previous question, that the ulama, they mention that if you have like a small, let's say you had a small piece of sesame seed or something in your mouth, and you knew it was there, and then suddenly it just vanished. Don't worry about it. Just ignore it. It's minor.
Yeah.
Right? So there's no need to constantly keep rinsing your mouth.
Yeah.
Once you've had your suhoor, for example, if you brush your teeth, clean your mouth properly, the assumption is that's it. Your mouth is clean now.
Yeah.
There's no need to constantly rinse your mouth. What's in your mouth now? Yeah, if it's saliva and you swallow it, it's not going to break your fast. So again, the religion is ease for us. Let's not make it more difficult than it needs to be.
Absolutely. So what if what if you have like dry lips, and your skin breaks during fast, but then also there are people who have the habit of chipping off their the lip and swallowing a piece of the lip,
or even their nails.
Yeah, or even the nails. True.
Yeah.
But then there's also a third part to it is when they bite the lip, and pull the skin off, it starts to bleed.
Yeah.
So now again, how does that affect fasting?
Okay, so again, if it's just something that's in your mind that I may have done it, but you're not even sure, just ignore those thoughts.
Yeah.
Right. Don't give in to the whispers. But if you genuinely know that, look, I've got a lip, a bit of skin coming off, you bite it and you actually actively now have swallowed it, that would break your fast.
Yeah.
Because you've actively done something, even though it's not technically food, but it meets all the conditions to break the fast.
That's right.
So the fast would break. But if it's just a whisper you're having, that, maybe I swallowed something, that's just a waswasa. That's just a whisper of shaitan. Or it's, some kind of mental, in terms of whispering, might have to do with mental health as well. So again, you should dismiss those thoughts. Don't worry about them.
Okay. And what about, if you do have a chapped lip and you pull it off and it starts to bleed?
Yeah, so if it starts to bleed, obviously your wudu would break if the blood is flowing, right? But you're not going to break your fast.
Yeah.
right? It's not going to break your fast.
Okay.
Unless you decide to drink the blood, right? Which I don't recommend anyway.
So, obviously it is sunnah to use the miswak during fasting.
Yes.
And what happens, if you're brushing your teeth using the miswak,
Yes.
and some of the bristles go through.
Okay. So firstly, remember, the miswak is not supposed to be eaten, yeah? It's supposed to... I know some people use miswak very vigorously.
Mint flavor.
Right? So firstly, you're supposed to stick to an original miswak. Don't add any flavoring on it, yeah? But secondly, if you're just using the miswak,
Yeah.
and you're not sure if anything's gone down, the assumption is nothing's gone down, because people, when you use miswak, you don't swallow bristles normally.
Yeah.
But if actively, for some reason, I don't know why, you've done it and you know it's gone down, then again, it's just like that piece of skin, which you know it's gone down.
Yeah.
That would now break your fast. So it has the same ruling there.
Okay. So yes, my listeners, do remember, don't actively go for the miswak, right?
Yeah,
It's
so-
not food.
Yeah. So because some people chew it very vigorously as
Yeah.
well. You've seen.
Yeah.
And especially what happens when you've got a fresh miswak, you've got a fresh one.
Yeah.
It's that. And so you're chewing it to break off the outer peel.
That's right.
So if that goes down now, that would break your fast. You've got to be careful with that.
Yeah.
So just be careful when you're doing it that you spit everything out.
Absolutely. What if you accidentally ate while fasting? Does your fast break, or do you stop fasting? What happens?
Yeah. So obviously in a previous in the first part.
First part, yeah.
Yeah, we've discussed in terms of, obviously, if you're eating, but it's accidentally, so not forgetfully.
Yeah.
Let's distinguish firstly again that accidentally you're fasting. You're fasting, but let's say somehow you still ate something, or more likely you drank something, like you drank water, yeah, while you're doing wudu. That's accidentally. So your fast still breaks. But the additional question here is, do you keep fasting or do you stop fasting now? That's the question, right? Do you keep
Absolutely.
fasting,
Yeah.
or do you stop fasting? So now, in this case, you should still keep fasting. Why? Yes, you've made a mistake, and yes, your fast has broken. That's fine. But remember, everybody else is fasting, and you are meant to be fasting, except that you broke it. So now, to value the month of Ramadan and the sacred time that you're in currently, which is supposed to be a time of fasting, you should now also imitate those fasting.
Yeah.
Which is what? By abstaining.
Absolutely.
So abstain from food, drink, relations, etc.
Yeah.
Right? So you're not actually fasting, but you're just imitating them.
Yeah.
And that's out of respect for the sanctity of the time you're in, where everybody else around you would be fasting.
Absolutely.
Obviously, because your fast is actually broken, later on you will now have to
Repeat.
make up the fast, basically. Do qada.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's a very, very good advice, because remember, when a person is fasting at that stage, you are actively in a state of ibadah, right?
Of course.
And you are thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You should be thinking about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if you accidentally break your fast, as Imam advises, continue, stay in that state of ibadah. It is best, because it will still keep you grounded. It will still, remind you of the akhirah. You're in the dunya, but it will remind you of the akhirah. And, inshallah, it will allow you to still get the benefits of that month, inshallah, still. So
It's not a
yeah.
choice. You have to do so.
Yeah.
You have to do so, right?
Yeah.
You must continue in that state, because the Ramadan is a month of sanctity. It's a sacred month.
Yeah.
And so even though you've made a mistake, you have to show respect to that month by maintaining that state.
Good. Okay. Okay, so what if you intentionally you broke your fast, but then later you regretted it? Can you continue fasting that day?
Yeah. So again, these are things that happen, that maybe
Yeah.
you were fasting, and then you got really hungry or whatever happened, or hangry, and then you decided, I'm gonna break my fast. Now that you've broken your fast, you might be eating, and then later, you come back to your senses a bit, and you realize, I made a mistake. Then from that moment on, continue imitating the state of those who are fasting, right? Meaning, because now, as much as you can, it's like you're fasting. Obviously, since you've actually broken the fast, you are going to have to make it up. And if it was intentionally eating, you will have to do the kafara as well, as we mentioned previously.
Okay. So Imam Muaz, let's say we have you're fasting, your day is going okay. You get a splitting headache. You try and manage it as best as you can, and it gets worse. And you get to a stage where you have no other option, but you think, you know what, I got to take some medication to relieve the pain that I'm going through. Can you take the medication and then still continue with your fast?
Yes, so of course, if it gets to a stage which is unbearable, like, you know, I can't bear this headache anymore, I have to do something, right? That's fine. You have a valid reason, you know, take the medication. But then continue to imitate those who are fasting, basically, right? Because it's a sacred state, and inshallah, Allah will give you that reward because this was something out of your control, out of your capacity.
Okay. No, I think, alhamdulillah, you know, we have covered quite a number of those questions, you know. So to our listeners, you know, I hope you have all benefited from this show as much as I have. We have tried to answer some of the common questions. Inshallah, we'll be doing another show quite dedicated more towards the general problems that women go through during Ramadan, you know, how we can, you know, the common questions that they have and the solutions to it. We also have brothers, you know, in professional jobs who are working, people who work on different shift patterns. So we'll, inshallah, also try and look at answering their questions. You know, people who have, you know, mental health issues. Inshallah, you know, we'll try and also look at answering those questions, and focusing mainly for the month of Ramadan and the general questions that people will have during that time. So inshallah, stay tuned for our next show, inshallah, where we will be covering these sort of other common questions. And thank you for staying on the Ask Imam show. Assalamu alaikum.